Welcome, everybody, to episode number 7 of the Hitting Zone podcast, brought to you by Insert Your Name Here. That is for whoever wants to sponsor us next, because we need some sponsors. In the meantime, I want you to go check out YouTube, check out Youth Baseball Midwest. Whether you're on your cell phone or you're on your laptop or desktop, there is a subscribe button. There is a dinger or a bell. I like dingers. I also like the bell because I associate that with a dinner bell. And when it dings, you kind of go do your thing. So go hit it, get some information, and then watch this episode to its entirety because I got a special guest today. I'm excited about this one. But also leave some comments, things that you would like for us to discuss on this show, because it's a little different than some of the other shows that we do, and just kind of baseball conversation. And what a way to have Mr. Hughes on here, because we have a lot of baseball opportunities, information. Brian's over there ducking to put the lights on me. I don't need no lights on because of all the water that's sprayed me coming in. I probably look like I got some sort of makeup on or something. But anyways, Dusty Hughes, former big leaguer, D2 at Delta State, if that's correct, right?
Right.
Yeah. So Dusty, let us know here in St. Louis a little bit about Dusty Hughes.
Yeah, so obviously my name's Dusty Hughes. I'm from Horn Lake, Mississippi. Went to Horn Lake High School in Mississippi. It's North Mississippi, right near Memphis, Tennessee. And then signed a scholarship out of there to Delta State. Actually signed as a dual player and didn't get to hit very much. I did get one at bat. I did good in that one at bat. We might discuss that later. But ended up being a pitcher, left-handed pitcher. Still live right next to Horn Lake in South Haven, Mississippi, where I married my high school sweetheart. Now we have 2 kids. One will be a senior this year, and one will be an 8th grader. And but yeah, so after Delta State, I was there for 3 years, and got drafted in the 11th round by the Kansas City Royals in 2003, and ended up playing for Kansas City for 8 years, and made it to the big leagues with them in 2009, and after 2009, made the opening day roster in 2010, was there the whole year. And 2011, got traded to Minnesota and was with Minnesota in 2011. And then signed a minor league deal in 2012 and 13 with the Braves. And that was my last year in 2013.
That's you were at Gwinnett, I'm assuming? Was that their AAA group?
Yes.
I got you. That's a roller coaster of opportunities, I guess, if you will.
So this area back here is basically production. They do a lot of the artwork back here. They do the production. So any of that stuff that comes in off of, we'll say, our fanware stores, stuff that comes in off the team stores, a lot of the coaches wear, a lot of the last minute, hey, we got to have it in the next 10 minutes stuff. That's all comes back here. This area is where all the day-to-day stuff that comes in really goes through. The retail store is its own little entity. This is where the real work is done.
Speaking of kind of that, I got to meet you down in Louisiana, and I got to meet your 8th grader, big kid. He's got some potential. I watched him down there when we were kind of training on some things, and is he feeling good? I know that he was having some arm issues, I think, when we had gone down there. Is he feeling a little bit better?
Yes, he's back to 100% now. He actually pitched for the first time about a month ago, and I think when we were down there, I think because he was injured, he was around like 60 miles an hour. And last 2 weeks ago, he pitched and was up to 74. So he's back to normal, and lower leg drive and strength and shoulder strong again. So he's back 100% healthy, which has been great.
Yeah, perfect. Because he's a good kid. I liked having conversations with him. You guys, are you still with Five Tool? Or it
Five
was
Star, yes.
Five Star. Sorry, I don't. Five Tool, I think, is a tournament provider. Five Star. I apologize. So, how is it for you being a former pitcher? Played at a nice level at Delta State, and then obviously the experience in the minor leagues or professional baseball all the way up to the big leagues. How is the relationship for you and your son? And I only know you're eighth grader, so I'm not. Is your other one? I'm assuming your other one's older. You said
Yeah, my
older, right?
daughter's 17.
Oh, daughter. Sorry,
She's a,
gotcha. And so, explain that relationship with your son as far as pitching goes.
yeah, so it's really interesting because obviously he's right-handed, I'm left-handed. So, we still got the dad part of that of he don't like to listen too much, but no, it's been great. And as far as like drill work goes, we can do a lot of stuff on our own and just understanding. So the cool thing about it is not just pitching mechanics. I talk with him. We talk a lot about like how to set up hitters and he catches too. So this has been a conversation for a long time of how to read swings of late and early and just different things like that. And if he chases a breaking ball and, just truly, learning the game from the catcher and the pitcher's perspective has been really cool for me. Like those conversations are priceless for me. And, I think he listens to me from the dad perspective, more on the how to set up hitters and call a game and, understanding how to see swings and not just, oh, he was late, so I need to do that again. Like it goes a little deeper. And so it's been cool. This year, he actually called his own game for a couple times. Being a 13-year-old, he plays up an age group, which he's actually going to play his own age group this year. But being able to call a game and be an efficient game caller, which was pretty neat, and talking in between innings and all those conversations about pitchability of different kids and his breaking ball's not working and as he's catching. That's been really cool.
Nice. And so, when you say call a game, I go back to the catching side of it. Is that what you're talking about, or did he kind of manipulate that from the mound, like game plan from the
Yeah, he
mound?
did. So the game plan from the catcher's perspective, I let him call the game as a catcher, but I also gave when I would call pitches when he was pitching, I gave him the freedom to shake off as well.
That's a lot of trust.
It it
And
is.
I like there's some things that you said there that I think that a lot of people kind of take for granted these days, which was talking between innings, on what is working or what pitches we're missing or, whatever the conversation may be. Because you see a lot of coaches today just flash signs on the bucket and say, go execute it. And if you don't execute it, they blame the pitcher, not the pitch calling, anything of that because they don't have a real feel for the game. I took pride. I took a ton of pride in being that guy that was calling the pitches because I'm invested in the game. Obviously I should have trusted maybe my coaches more, but I asked my coach, I was like, can I call it? And if I do something wrong, chirp me. Like, hey, tell me right
Yeah.
then and there to execute something differently, or if I'm getting too much of a sequence going or rhythm going that I need to throw some things off, go ahead and chirp me. I'm not going to take it personal, and I see that like in today's game. Do you have that with your group where like I will let my catchers call their games, and if I see some things that I don't like or I think there's a rhythm or a sequencing happening, I'm like, hey man, and I'll chirp them, and they almost take it personal, like I'm picking on them. Do you find that this is similar to what you kind of deal with down there in Mississippi? It's like, do you guys have some that kids that just it's tough for them to take a little bit of criticism or a little bit of conversation?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is they think it's criticism and their mindset's just wrong. And instead of just having a conversation of myself asking a question of what made you call a 0-2 breaking ball versus fastball away or whatever. And I think they think by us just questioning them and truly just having a conversation about it, trying to teach them, they take it as we don't agree with it and we're just criticizing it. And we talk a lot about it as far as like the kids understanding, like just because I'm getting on to you doesn't mean anything. Like I'm just trying to help you. But most of the time, I'm not even getting on to you. I'm just asking why you did it more than anything else. And you're going to take it which way you want to. But at the next level, if you don't take it the way that the coaches are trying to have a conversation with you, it ain't going to work out so well. You're going to be sitting over there with me.
Yeah, that's what's interesting about the changes between the middle school age groups and your high school age groups, and then obviously college and beyond. I don't have any experience at the professional level, but I can only imagine, being a college coach. I'm not too far away from being like close to the what we might do at double A or single A or whatever, or developmental, whatever you want to call it. And I look at this and I'm like, the players ask me why, right? They ask me why I want them to do something particular. And I always tell them when they get a little bit out of shape, I'm like, you asked me just the other day why this. What if I would have just acted the way that you did? And sometimes I try to do that. I don't know if it's beneficial or not. I just go with my instinct there. And I think about if you asked me why, and I was just a breakdown because now my coaching's bad, or if I think my coaching's not good enough because you're asking me why, how would you take that? And then it gets them to think a little bit. And I've like, it's a 50-50, it's a gamble, right? And then they look at me and they're like a little perplexed. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. It's like, if you can ask me why, I need to ask you why with the same things of both of us getting better. And so from what I'm getting out of this, Dusty, is, hey, trust your coaches and trust that the why is not to hurt your feelings, but to grow the mind and the IQ for the sport. Is that kind of how you feel?
Absolutely. Yeah. And what we tell them all the time too is like, look, if I'm continuing to question you and ask you questions and talk to you and all that stuff, you got to realize all we're here to do is help you. We're trying to grow your mindset along with your skill set. And when we stop talking to you, that's when you should be worried, because then we just moved on and we've realized that you're not going to listen to us anyways. And so the more we talk to you, that's always a good thing. And so I think they've started to understand that as like, oh, okay, we actually do want the coaches to kind of critique what we do or question why we do things, because at the end of the day, if they don't care, they wouldn't be talking to us.
Yeah, that's a buy-in that I think is a struggle these days. And I always look at this and say those uncoachable kids turn into unemployed adults. It's like you have to be able to accept some of that. And I think about when we played, and I have these conversations with older guys all the time. And we had this down in Louisiana that when, did you ask questions to your coach when you played? And I'm like, I didn't. I just did what I was told. And I don't remember having these battles when I played. Like if the coach asked me a question, I answered. I had confidence in my answer, and sometimes I was right, sometimes I was wrong, sometimes I had the coach get a thought process that where I was thinking, and it helped just the entire mindset of the game planning and all that stuff. And I think about what has changed, and I don't know if it's the pressures of education these days and the sense that we have to be so perfect in almost everything else that we do as kids these days. I don't know if it's the gaming side of it or the information that's at our hands. I don't know, but I didn't ask a ton of questions when I played. I just did what I was told, and nowadays I wish I would have asked a little bit of the why, because maybe it would have helped me more. Is that something like for you? Like, how do you? And I'm not sure I'm asking this the right way, but how do you go about like working with this group to build that culture that they can trust you to ask the tough question, give the tough answer, and at the end result, like everybody's learning? How do you work that
Yeah.
out with your culture with your group?
Well, the biggest thing is we just, obviously the old saying is there's not a dumb question. So being able to have the confidence to ask the question. I think a lot of times that we've explained to the kids, like, you got to be able to ask questions. A lot of times the kids are not going to ask questions because they're worried about what their peers and teammates are going to say about it. And just understanding they're worried about what people are going to say versus the outgoing kid, the what if kid. I hate that what if kid. He drives me nuts, by the way. But on the flip side, questions. So I enjoy the questions for the most part, because a lot of the questions are genuine. Like, I don't know, and I'm willing to accept that I don't know the answer. And the ones that are not willing to ask the questions are usually the ones not listening to you when you talk to them. And so we just talk to them all the time about I talk to them from my personal experience. So when I was playing pro ball early in my years in Kansas City, like, we didn't get feedback. it was, good job, or you threw the ball well, they'll write in a report. We never got to see the reports. But, we kind of base everything off of, comparing against our teammates and the other guys in the league and stuff, of numbers and pitchability and stuff like that. But we didn't get feedback in a sense of like, you're doing well right now. Your ERA is a 1.5 in 40 innings, but your breaking ball's not sharp to get you to the next level. Well, it would have been nice to have known that, so I could work on that. I'm throwing well, but obviously I need to be working on something, and that's what we do well. We provide a ton of feedback to the kids, giving them homework as far as baseball homework. We call it baseball homework, but giving them stuff to work on at home. And last outing, your fastball command was really poor, and we need to work on our fastball command in this, instead of just throwing a bullpen and fastballs down the middle to say we threw a bullpen. And we work on that stuff and getting them to understand that the pitchability side and the player ability side is just a huge component of it. And being able to ask questions and create the culture of like comfortable with our coaches. And, like after practice and games, like it's, all of our kids, they say, it's basically thanks coach and give us knucks and going about their business, instead of, hey guys, break it down and go home. They break it down and go home and just walk their separate ways. Well, they're going to, but, we make our guys understand that we're there to help them, and being able to have the comfort factor to ask us questions and not be, kind of reprimanded for it.
I think that's an issue that I have with some of the groups that I coach is, I'd imagine, and that you have a high IQ for this sport. I mean, I think that's part of what probably led you to be a successful pitcher, and how to get guys out, whether it was crafty or you had velo. You use your skill sets. And what I find today, which this drives me bonkers, is I'll ask the guys, hey, why are we doing this? Or, what would you like to see out of me? And I have complete silence. And that tells me that I don't have the buy-in or the trust of my guys. Yet I know that some of them will come to me in a one-on-one situation. And stuff that I didn't think about until you just kind of said it is, maybe they don't say it because they don't want to sound a particular way in front of their teammates. They don't want to sound, just no such thing as a dumb question. They may look at that and go, if I ask this question, my teammates might look at me that way. And I never really thought about it like that. I've probably said it before and haven't really thought about it again, but I'm trying to encourage conversation so that we can get over some of these hurdles, because I don't have a great team. I have a good group of kids that we have to play baseball the right way. And when we don't, it's meltdown time. I can't encourage them. I can't get them, I can't say things to them about their swings or their, after this is post game or anything like that. They get their feelings hurt. And I'm like, I'm not trying to do that. You're wanting to play at another level. And my goal is to make sure that you make your high school teams first. And then when you do, you can be an everyday guy. And the mentality is weak. And I don't know how to fix that other than trying to get them to trust me. They all tell me they do, but I'm like, then why don't we talk? Why don't we talk this out? And because you'll be surprised how many kids probably feel the same way you do. And that's how I try to, I'm trying to work through some of the culture changes and differences. And, again, I just did what my coach told me to do, and feedback would have been great. I had a coach tell me there is a such thing as a dumb question. So it's probably why we never asked questions, but, but questions bring up opportunities to learn. And I find that, something that's very difficult in today's sport. But you had talked about bullpens and building up information, and now, not just throwing the ball down the middle. I was shocked on how many guys that I kind of inherited through tryouts or from different teams, whatever, had no idea on how to warm up. And I'm a believer of, when we warm up this is pregame, trying to focus on throwing the ball down the middle, find out where your pitches are moving, and then when you end your pregame or your bullpen session, whatever you want to call it, then you start fine tuning the corners and curveballs off the plate, or, you know, finding out how your breaking pitches are working. Do you got any suggestions on, you know, how your pregame workout is, or your bullpens? Or am I even telling the kids the right things to do? Because I want them to get to see how they have a feel for their changeup and their curveball, and then, you know, build off your movement. Is that something that you guys work on down there?
Yeah, so we were actually discussing this yesterday. So a lot of our youth teams around here outside of us, not, bad mouthing them or anything like that. They basically throw to warm up, and we actually warm up to throw. Meaning, with our dynamic warm up and our band work and our towel drill stuff, we do a lot of towel drill stuff and trying to get their body prepped to throw. So if I can get 30 to 40 towel rep drills, especially if I'm the starting pitcher that day, if I can get 30 to 40 towel rep drills before I pick up a baseball, it takes the element of it like this. So the high school kids, this is what they do, and the youth kids not as much, but the high school kids, their first couple of throws, all they think about is, how does my arm feel? How does my arm feel? And so the older they get, that's, kind of what you train your body to get loose before you even pick up a baseball. So we do towel drill stuff and, movements as far as like that, just their throwing motion, their footwork type stuff. And we do walk-ins, we do walk backwards, shuffles, we do wind-up drills. And so a lot of times that we get their mindset kind of right before they even play catch. So a lot of times the kids just throw to get loose, and even the older kids are kind of bad about, well, let me show the other team off and let me throw at 300 feet to warm up just to show everybody that I can throw the ball 300 feet. And at the end of the day, really nobody cares. And so getting their arm loose, and when we work back in, that's when we start working on, our changeup stuff and our breaking ball before we even go to the mound. And then we go to the mound, we have an idea. We usually start with 8, but it is down the middle with 8. And then we start working because, that sinker might not be sinking as much early on in the bullpen. So we kind of get a feel for it. And if we need to go high, fast four seamers away more, or we can run it back in on their hands and stuff like that. They're understanding at that point because their arm is basically 100% loose. Whereas by the time we throw in the bullpen, most of the other teams, they're already done throwing. So we're trying to time it right. We make sure our guys are, timed right as far as that goes. Like we try and finish, if we're the home team, 5 minutes before. If we're the visiting team, we finish right at game time. So it's kind of it's preparation for sure. And then the breaking ball down the way, trying to get a feel for that breaking ball down the way instead of getting in the first inning and hanging breaking balls early. But to be honest with you, early on in the game, we try and get through the first 2 innings with no breaking balls. We try and really establish fastball command because obviously the first two innings, you're facing the top end of their lineup, top 6 at least, getting into 8, and then 9 and 10 going into the third inning. Well, if you got to use your breaking ball in the first inning, your fastball command is probably not high quality right now, and we're just trying to fend our way through the first 2 innings because our fastball command's not there and our changeups location's not there. So you're gonna be in for a big early on the game if you're throwing breaking balls that early. So we definitely are fastball command, but we probably throw the ball inside more than a lot of teams. We're fastball command, 4-seam and 2-seam, arm side inside to righties, and obviously we're backdoor fastballs as far as glove side, and then we go up. And then, but like I said, we try and stay away from the breaking ball early. Sometimes it affects us because we don't throw a lot of them early, and our weak breaking ball comes in later in the game. But on the flip side, your breaking ball does not have to be great to be able to pitch at a high level with fastball changeup. Because if you can throw a get me over breaking ball or just a show me breaking ball and then go right back to a fastball located in, it makes the breaking ball that much better. Now, if you can't throw the ball in, your breaking ball not being very good, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But that fastball changeup command, being able to establish both sides of the plate, and with an average breaking ball, you can still be a really good arm.
Man, that's gold because I watch so many games, being a director of an organization here at St. Louis. I'll go out and watch, even my own team, and I'll ask a kid, I'm like, first pitch of the game leads off with a curveball. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, what are we establishing here? They're friends, whatever. So they're competing against each other. It's funny, but at the end of the day, I think about, okay, well, why in the first inning did we throw 15 pitches and we had, 9 of them be off speed? Are you afraid because you don't have enough velo, or, because again, like most of our kids are that AA level group here, right? And I know AA means something different in every state, because you go down in Texas and AAA major is way different than the AAA major, here. It's better,
Sure.
So I think about these things and I'm like, I got a kid that throws, say, 75 to 78 miles an hour. You could still be competitive with that pitch. You just can't leave it in the middle of the plate. If a guy hits an inside pitch and he yanks it foul, well, you just set up your off speed later in the game, but you don't have to go to it right there next pitch. Get him to ground out. Get him to throw that sinker again off that overlay, and now get him to ground out to your third baseman or whatever the case, or bloop, to the second baseman. And so I'm like, you have to live off the fastball. And so many kids don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, that's what we're training. we don't train to throw your curveball 7,000 miles an hour. We teach you to throw your fastball. And why is that the one pitch that we train the most, but we get away from it? And I even see it in the big leagues. Ryan Helsley, I don't know if you're a Cardinals fan or not, or, how much you pay attention to the big leagues in general, but I watch Ryan Helsley, a guy that hits triple digits, and he throws 6 sliders in a row. Granted, he's got a good slider, but I'm thinking to myself, the one pitch that he threw was 99 up in the zone. Guy didn't have a clue. And you throw, all these sliders in a row. He fights a couple off. You miss a couple of them. And I'm like, why don't you go back to your heater? And they throw a get me over slider. And I'm like, man, that's a very different pitch, because that's the pitch that goes out of the ballpark, because you're not trying to walk a guy when you're up a run. You know what I mean? You don't want that guy to get on it. It just baffles me that, we miss so many opportunities as athletes and, as coaches. And I ask those questions, and sometimes they give me answers. It's like, Coach, these kids are dead fastball hitting teams or whatever. And I'm like, execute your pitch, man. If you execute your pitch, I think that we'll be all right. And if you have to throw your curveball early just because it's, you only throw 70 poo, it's fine. And, I can get that, but we're probably only getting 4 innings out of you, because I don't think that we could, because the pitch count starts going up, because you don't hang curveballs when you throw that slow, because they get tattooed, and so I'm like, throw 75 miles an hour, man. Just throw it up and in, throw it on the hands, get it out, try to get a pop up or weak contact, because, most of today's kids, I don't even think they, I don't even think they hit or understand the differences or how to set up timing. I always get the kids that say, Coach, I can't hit slow pitching. I'm like, man, that's different than when I played. My coach told me take advantage of slow pitching and get lucky on the heater, the guy that threw hard, and hopefully that you go 1 for 4, if you're lucky to have 4 at bats and, get 1 hit. And game has definitely changed, and trying to adapt to it is, has been tough. But you said something there that I've been big into lately, and you're talking about your preparation. And I think about watching guys like Marcus Stroman. For whatever reason, he's got a large social media presence. And they throw like athletes prior to the game starting. They work on the throws on the run, or, dropbacks like quarterbacks, and all these different moving parts. And what I learned about going down to Louisiana and doing some training with you, Brent Porcio said to us, he goes, you don't need to warm up the arm, you need to warm up the body. And everything that you were doing, you're prior to throwing, is literally warming up, the body. And then you're going through your routine, and you're only taking 10, 12 pitches or whatever it may be, 15. Some of these kids, I'm watching their bends, and they go do, eyes, Y's, and T's. They go like this a little bit, and next thing you know what, they're standing on the bump. They're trying to walk in or walk down the mound, and they're starting to throw it as hard as they can. And they throw 30 pitches, wait 15 minutes, and then try to go out and take the field. And to me, I'm like, I'm not a pitcher. And so I try to trust my pitchers on their warm-up routines. And I look down there, and I'm like, man, you threw 4 balls right off the bat. Like you weren't even ready to go to get on the bump. And, you know, they're spiking 56 footers in the bullpen, and it drives me bonkers. And so now I have to teach things that I thought are assumed, which we don't do, you know, that we have to teach how to prep pregame. And I'm shocked that, you know, you get out on a field and it's like, hey, guys, you know, we got 45 minutes, you know, till game time starts. I got nobody out there dynamic stretching. I got nobody getting loose. And I'm thinking to myself, you just went and hit. I'm like, you're stiff. You know, your legs probably aren't in good shape. And I'm literally pressing the issues. Why are we not dynamic warm-up? I should not have to hold your hand at this age group. That bothers me. And even though that I can push it, I can yell it, I can do everything, at some point it has to go back on the players. And I do. I say, if you're not doing this, I'm not going to ask you. I'm not going to beg you. Just understand that you will not be prepared for this game. And this past weekend was evidence of that. It's because we didn't have other places to warm up, and they couldn't get creative. They couldn't go outside the park. They wouldn't go out into the parking lot and warm up. You know, any of those things, it's like I shouldn't have to tell everybody this. And so accountability for me is, you know, but again, God, the one thing that you said there that really stuck was warming up the body to throw. And I'm guessing that it probably takes you guys 45 minutes, 35 minutes to probably, for your pitcher, to even get going. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, most of our guys, like I kind of gauge it and I keep up with their times, how long it kind of takes them. And most of our guys are about 27 to 30 minutes, and we got a couple that are about 30 to 35. Yeah. And personally, older guys tend to throw more than the younger guys, but I think they've realized, especially now that it's hot outside, I don't think they finally realized they don't have to throw and long toss and throw all the throws and all that stuff, because once they do their dynamic warm up and their towel drill and stuff, they've basically taken the first 15 to 20 throws out of the mix. So like we have a kid on our team right now, Landon Holmes, I'll talk about in a little bit. He said it perfect. He's like, Coach Dusty, when I'm done with my warm up stuff, like I feel like I don't even need to play catch. Like I feel like I can go right to the mound, but I don't, just because I feel like my routine calls for me to at least go to 90 feet. But as far as like if I'm a bullpen guy going to the next level, this is what I got to do, because if I know in the 4th inning the phone might ring, or you know whatever, the walkie-talkie in college and stuff, and if I'm doing all this stuff before and kind of get my mind right, like there's no like wind my arm up and make 20 throws, whatever. I've already made those throws with my towel to get my body loose to be able to throw the baseball. And I think they're realizing now, like at the end of the day, I'm kind of saving bullets.
Yeah.
You only got so many where it starts to break down, and, you know, not releasing the ball in the towel drill and getting all those movements and mechanical moves in a way is saving bullets. And it's really been the biggest thing that I've noticed from it more than anything else is the recovery time. Like I'll have a guy throw, you know, 75, 85 pitches on Friday. Well, Saturday walks in, he's ready to do his stuff, and he's like, Coach, my arm doesn't feel bad at all. And so in years past, when we didn't do that stuff, you could tell us like, yeah, I'm real stiff. I'm not moving well, all that stuff. And now it's like, yeah, I can go play shortstop if you need me today.
Yeah, I'm noticing that too. And we had gone down to Top Velocity. That's where we met down there in Louisiana. And we're going through an in-season program here for my guys. And we have adapted to a little bit of that pregame routines and stuff like that. And I've noticed things, you know, using the med balls, the two-handed moves, the towel drills, just different things are allowing the body to manage the arm, and instead of saying, hey, I need to go out there, like you said, and throw 300 something feet. And which brings me up to this topic. I love talking about this because, again, I'm 44 years old. Coach told me if I throw it far, I can throw it hard. And we went down there, and there was some things, and I think we looked at each other and we were like, I don't know if this is accurate. And obviously there's data that proves it. But there's also the experience of being able to throw long toss and having those results. Now, I don't know if it's because I was thick and I was strong, or, you know, reason why my arm held up or didn't get injured. I don't know. my mechanics were right. I have no idea because I didn't ask questions there. I didn't have the coaching that we have now as far as the individual type training. We didn't have none of that. Coach said just throw it far, and I did. I didn't know anything about mechanics. How do you feel, one, about long toss, but even the pregame long toss for pitchers?
So I'll go pregame long toss first. So the pregame long toss, I think it's individualized. Some of our guys like to stretch it out for a couple. My big thing is if you have to sacrifice throwing mechanics and making your body lean back to reach and go in that upward, like high level upward plane to throw, I think you're sacrificing mechanics. And that, the whole long toss thing is, when you bring it back in, you do pull downs to get your body back on plane and all that stuff, which I get. I'm not saying it's wrong, but also I never felt, and a lot of our kids have kind of gotten to where they don't feel like they have to stretch it out as far just to, more or less, they feel like we're putting in too much effort in the wrong direction, I guess, in that upward movement. Because at the end of the day, when we pitch, we're trying to get into forward trunk tilt and getting into a downward action as we go out, even though our elbow's going in upward motion first. So that's where it's relatable. But in the pitching motion with the body, that's where the sacrifice comes in. So with me, I felt like as good as however good your arm is, let's just say let's just say you're 88 to 90 guy. Well, your arm's pretty good. So if you can stretch it out to 150 and not sacrifice mechanics and throw the ball head high, do it. But I feel like, like the 9 and 10-year-old guys, they'll back it up to 150 and the ball's going 40 feet in the air and 60 feet in the air. Yeah, you're losing mechanical movements and you're not getting your arm and your body ready to pitch. So we do it to, like with me, I was a 120 guy. I would get, now if I started today, tomorrow, or the next day, depending on how I felt, usually day 2 because that was bullpen day, I would stretch it out just to get to feel extension movements, but it wasn't to 300 feet. It was 150, maybe 180, and it was on a line. It was as much as my arm would allow me to do, and feeling that forward trunk movement and all that, which obviously back then it was, hey, get extension, reach out front. It wasn't like true like body movement talk and stuff like that like it is now. But practice wise, I think a lot of the stuff, we warm up to throw and our body's warm. So a lot of the kids, like I said, number one, they try and stretch it out to show off to their teammates and against the other team. But like for practice wise, we do it as far as we're getting our arm loose, like game loose in practice. A lot of times, they get out there and the first 15 throws are just kind of a waste of time. So you're wasting 5 minutes of practice, whereas they should have already prepped it. So getting into that long toss thing, I like I said, as long as your arm allows it and you can keep the ball 20 feet or lower and you're not sacrificing throwing mechanics, do it. But it goes back to feel, which is, the hot topic is feel. And if you feel like you're sacrificing, it's time to move in. Or if your partner's got a better arm than you, let your partner back it up and you long hop it to them. A lot of times your partner tries to match you. And if I'm an 88 to 90 guy, but my partner's 75 to 79, we're not the same arm. So I'm not going to have the line. He's going to have the line. And I'm going to go out as far as I need to and let him long hop it to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, the long is always a hot topic for sure. And I'm, kind of the, Trevor used to throw that 700 feet somehow, but I'm just not a fan of it because, how far we throw the ball 300 feet in the game. Never. Unless you're a Jose Guillen throwing it from the right field to third base or something for the Pirates.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've seen some throws in the big leagues, but that's been once in a blue moon. That's why they celebrate it. You think about Dave Parker, the Clemente throws, obviously Guillen's throw. And I think about that stuff all the time. I'm like, you know what? When Brent said that stuff to me, I was like, I never asked why to throw far. I just could. And then I got to thinking about it. I never really played like over the mountain or, anything like that to try to throw it up as high as I can for catch play. I did that because I was an only child, and if nobody had nobody was outside to play catch with, I would try to throw it as high as I could to work on my catching drills. But I never did it for 20 minutes or anything crazy like that. And I never had arm issues. And so for me, I was like, is it because I just understood? Because again, I didn't get taught this. I didn't get taught how to throw long toss. I just knew that I couldn't throw it from down here, because if I threw it from down there, my arm was going to hurt. Or it would, in that moment, I would feel something and it would tell me that wasn't good to feel. I would change it, which, I don't know if those are things that we do anymore. Is, again, oh, that felt awkward, let me not do that again. They keep still doing it and then going, Coach, I got an arm problem. I'm like, well, when did you feel it? Well, this throw when I did this. And I'm like, don't do that again. Like that's the Captain Obvious. And I'm like, I don't know if there's any more of that anymore. And I don't know if it's because there's more baseball players and, we see more of that versus when I played. I don't think we had as many kids playing ball back then. I think they were, doing whatever, whether it was with a rec league or, whatever. Even then, I didn't have travel baseball. So it's a big difference in today's. And I don't know if that is, because we have more athletes, just having more athletes. It's great that we have all these kids wanting to play baseball, but I also think we should understand the levels of commitment and just accept that, hey, you want to play baseball, just go play it. You don't have to practice every day or whatever. But everybody else, if you're telling me you want to be a college athlete, you're going to get coached like one. And then they don't like that stuff. They don't like dealing with preparation. They don't like dealing with controversies or being uncomfortable. Last week we had Shane Eames on from Premier Hitting Development, and that's one of the big things he talked about was being uncomfortable and then making them comfortable with the uncomfortable stuff. And it's hard to do that today because I don't think that they accept that or even want to be put in that positions because we're talking failure, we're talking mistakes. And what is something that you could tell our kids, just kids that are watching the show, the parents that are watching the show, what are your thoughts on dealing with, failure, or how do you, work with these kinds of things? Because I do think failure is a big part of this game. I think it's something that we have to embrace. We have to look at as more learning opportunities. It was said last week with Shane Eames again, and Kobe Bryant said it, there's no such thing as failure. There's only learning opportunities. How do you manage failure? Not only you could talk about yourself and what you went through, because obviously, you were a two-way guy, then became a PO. Then you moved on to the professional ranks. You had to go through the system. You had to experience the ups and downs, and then, one day it was over for you. And so, that's a punch in the gut. Especially being in the big leagues for a while. Having your cup of coffee there, and then you have to sign a minor league deal, and then it's done. So, to me, those are the things like that are gut wrenching, not the fact that you gave up a homer to David Ortiz or somebody. Talk about failure in your experience, and then how do you kind of deal with that with your youth side?
Yeah, so the youth side, obviously, coach pitch kind of ruins it for the little ones when they go to kid pitch, because they're used to batting 900 and then they go to kid pitch. That's always the challenge for sure. But yeah, dealing with the failure thing. So I'm like super, super hard on the kids when it comes to dealing with failure in a negative light, because the number one reason was because I was not held accountable as a kid, and I would get mad. I would, throw my helmet or, slam my bat down or whatever. It wasn't held accountable. And so I am very, very, very hard on the kids when it comes to that, of like, no bad body language. And if you have bad body language, you're not going to play. And just, don't give me the sad, like, pouty face and like, obviously yelling cuss words and all that stuff. I'm a stickler for it. So we face teams all the time that are yelling out cuss words. I'm like, guys, I'm telling you, you see how bad it looks now, we don't do it. And so by me having the experiences I had just, at a high school level and going to Delta State, where that's what basically trained me in that very tough environment, military kind of style in a way. There's no place for it in the game, so you got to deal with it, and if you don't deal with it, you won't play. And so I kind of took that approach, and going into pro ball, it's kind of more of an adult game. Obviously, you're not allowed to say coach. You call the coaches by name, and you don't say coach, and you don't say yes sir and no sir. And which, born and raised in Mississippi, that's a weird aspect in itself of not calling an adult a coach. But at that time, you are a grown man or whatever. But this experiences in failure in pro ball are just different. It's different because you play at a high school and a youth age. You're going to wake up tomorrow, you're going to go to school, and you're going to be on the team still. Well, you get to pro ball and you have a bad outing, or have bad couple outings, and your mind starts going, uh-oh, it might be that time. Well, as a youth kid dealing with it, it's a little bit different because it's not a business yet. But the youth side of it, dealing with failure, once you can get to that, and I tell the kids this all the time, this is the hardest thing in the game, dealing with failure. Obviously, anybody can do well on the mound and just strut off the mound and go 3 for 4 with 2 doubles and a homer. You don't even care if you got out your last at bat because you got 3 hits and your team wins. But when you're 0 for 4 with 2 Ks and you pitch like crap, how do you walk off the field? If your team wins, how do you walk off the field versus when you lose? And we talk about that a ton because at the end of the day, like our 17s now, there's colleges there every single time we play, and I have to set my pitching rotation according to who's coming that day and who they want to see. And, bad body language, makes me look bad too at the end of the day. So if I'm calling these guys and trying to vouch for them and player ability and, their grades and ACT score are high and all that stuff, and the, bad body language and not dealing with failure well is a huge component. And, I tell the kids this all the time, I probably shouldn't, but I'm like, guys, look, if you can't deal with failure, you need to go play something else. At the end of the day, and I say badminton all the time. Like, look, if you don't like dealing with failure, go play badminton. I'm not saying badminton's bad, but at the end of the day, it's a whole lot easier to deal with badminton in the backyard, dealing with failure versus going 0 for 3 with 2 Ks and, not having a good day at shortstop or in center field. And another thing too, like on the failure side, especially on the youth side, a lot of kids think outfield play as a youth player is punishment. And let me rephrase that. The kids don't think it is. The parents do. And at the end of the day, if you look up contracts in the big leagues, the highest paid players do not play on the dirt. The highest paid guys play in the outfield. So with that being said, there is some value of being an outfielder and being good at it. So I think being a really good outfielder is a huge component in today's game that is really unspoken. Because what happens is you stick guys in the outfield that can't play it and they miss not routine, but somewhat routine balls. What happens? Coach gets mad. Well, you make that the outfielder that's not a great hitter, who's a great outfielder. I got one on my team right now, unbelievable outfielder. Well, he's to me like an offensive lineman in football. They only get talked to or yelled at when they do something bad. You make so many good plays that when they mess up, you're like, what the heck, man? And then, but on the flip side, he doesn't hit well. So he doesn't hit well enough to play at the next level yet. But those kids that can play at a high level that can not hit well, but make up for it on defense, that's the easiest way to deal with failure. And the whole point of that was, if you don't hit well, find a way to make up for it in other aspects of the game. Don't take the pouty attitude to the outfield or to shortstop or the make the error, take the poutiness to the plate. You got to be able to find a way mentally to go, okay, I'm 0 for 2 today with a strikeout. I got to find a way to be, if I'm a courtesy runner at that time with youth baseball, you get to run for them all the time. And then I'm playing center field. I got to find a way to make a play to keep us in this ball game. And I think being able to do that is what makes the kids really get to the next level in their ability, mentally and physically. Because when they're mentally challenging themselves, they're going to fail more.
I think about what you just said in the professional side of baseball with Michael Ciani in patrolling center field for the Cardinals. And him and another rookie are like 11 defensive runs saved. And I think about when he saved those, we're talking about end of the game kind of plays or up a run with runners at second and third base, and he makes a tremendous play. And he doesn't hit well. And he wouldn't have had these opportunities if it wasn't for some guys that did not produce well or injury or anything of that nature. And here you get his opportunity, and you never know when that's coming. And I think about, what if that guy out of spring training would have thought, man, I'm a failure. I didn't make it this year. My time is up. I'm 25, 26 years old, and it's now or never kind of thing for me. And the kid goes out there, doesn't have a great spring, doesn't do anything special except for play defense. And next thing you know it, the Cardinals are 5 games over 500 because of maybe those 11 runs. And you just never know how you can produce in a game that day or help your team out in that day. And I listened to Jake Savecki. I'm not sure if I say his name right. He's on TikTok and different social media presence, and he does a podcast with David Justice. And as David Justice was a Yankee, which is Brian's favorite team, and he loves pinstripes, but that's sarcasm. And he was 0 for 4 with like 4 Ks this day. And he had come up late in the game, and he just he said in the podcast, he goes, just imagine if all I thought about was my 0 for 4, I'm wearing a sombrero, and imagine if I went to my last at bat feeling the same way. The crowd was up, and granted, I know the situations are different, but again, this is a big leaguer in the middle of the season who could have given away an at bat and just walked away from it, has already had his time and whatever. Instead, he kind of just said, hey, let's go. It's a new opportunity. It's one at bat. Let's go execute. He hits a walk-off. And to me, I'm thinking about, if you're thinking about your mistake that you made in the field, or you make the mistake, on a pitch, because I'm sure you've made some mistakes pitching. You have an ERA. So I'm sure that you've made some mistakes, and you've had to come back and throw. If you've given up a lead, you had to come back and throw and not give, they tied the game. You can't give up, now another run. And so you have to come back and pump strikes again and refocus. And, you said it before. You said, I was that kid that, I threw helmets and I did these things. Was it college and the next level where you understood, like, throwing things actually, the reason they're not good is because that coach will see that and say, nope, you're done playing for the day. We don't do that here. And was that the biggest eye opener for you, and why you decided to maybe change your mindset and coach this out of the kids at a young age? Is that why you did what you did and changing kind of who you were?
Yeah, oh, no doubt. Just, the accountability factor, right? So when I was in high school, and we had several good players on my high school team, we actually, my senior year, probably should have won the state championship, and had, I think, 4 or 5 of us play college baseball. So it's not that I was like the only guy that was, talented. So, but there was no accountability, in a sense that, kind of what we go back to what we were talking about before. I didn't have anybody teammate wise, that held me accountable that I should have. I mean, there was 2 guys I played football with, that should have beat the crap out of me, to be honest with you, for acting a fool. But once I got to college, it was, I started playing as a freshman, and you had guys like Eli Whiteside, who played in the big leagues with the Giants for probably a decade, that are, 6'3" and weighed 230 pounds, and, is a dude. And I'm the shortest guy on every team I play on. I was 5'9" and weighed 185. And so you walk into the room and you see those guys, and it's like almost like you created your own accountability, because I don't think you wanted to piss them off.
Not
And
at
so it
all.
was kind of you walk on eggshells a little bit, in a good way, because you wanted to earn the respect of those guys, not just on the field. So being able to do that and have those guys kind of created my own accountability. And it was like, it's time to grow out of that crybaby stuff, and dealing with failure is just part of this game. And like I said, I struggled with it my whole career. I mean, you can ask my wife. I would have a bad outing before my daughter was born, and I'd have a bad outing, and I'd be in the car, just wouldn't talk, whatever. And 2006 when she was born, my first outing in AA that year, I didn't pitch well. I didn't pitch bad, but it was not, efficient or whatever. And I got in the car, and my wife hands me a 3-month-old baby, and I was like, oh crap, it ain't that serious. So it definitely humbled me in a sense, and yeah, that is why I'm so tough on it. Just because the mental challenge of baseball is hard enough in itself, and the more pressure you put on yourself, and that's the if I give any advice to the parents, and I try to, not try and tell the parents what to do because everybody has their own personality and all that stuff, but the parent side of it, the more pressure you put on the kids, it makes it hard. Not, at the end of the day, reality is reality. Not everybody's going to make it to the big leagues. I'd love for my 13-year-old to make it to the big leagues too. But at the end of the day, realistically, the odds are against us. And
Yep.
so I was fortunate, very, very fortunate enough to be able to make it to the big leagues and play professionally for 11 years. And, like I said, I was the shortest guy. So that's the beauty of baseball that I love so much is size is not everything in this game. I don't get off the bus and impress anybody. So being 5'9" and weighing 185 and 180 in college, you're not going to impress anybody getting off the bus. So you got to find a way to get that chip and impress somebody and stand out in different aspects on the positive side.
Man, I love that what you said there, Dusty, because I'm a big guy, and you played with Eli Whiteside again, which was a massive man, 6'2", 135 or 1.8 or 235, and then you're at 5'9", and you made it. And I have these conversations all the time, man. Parents that say that a coach cut my kid because of size. I'm like, no, we don't cut kids because of size. We cut kids because they're not good enough. They don't have a high IQ or they're not coachable. We don't cut kids because they're overweight, or whatever. They're unathletic. They could be short. They could be big. You have to be that guy. You have to do something different to kind of impress us. But Dusty, I'm happy to get you on the show, man. And I'm sure we could talk all day because I got to spend a whole weekend with you and we talked a lot. But it's a great opportunity. And today I just getting to hear the show and just getting to hear a guy that pitched in the big leagues, dealing with failure, stuff like that, has been great to hear, kind of thoughts from somebody that's a couple hours, 5-6 hours away from where we live, where it's kind of universal around the country. It's how to deal with failure, how to deal with preparation and what is needed to kind of get to these next steps. And I hope to get you back on the show kind of down the road. I know you're going through some stuff with your, with your teams, business tryouts. And so I'd like to get you on again down the road and just continue talking baseball. And if you wanted to bring some kids on, or you wanted to bring in some talented young men. We just had a young man, Titus Sissel, just get drafted 4th round out of Howell, which they just did a show on this past weekend. If you wanted to catch it, it's on our YouTube page. He just got drafted 4th round. I think he got drafted as a shortstop, which I was shocked. I thought he would go as an outfielder by the Diamondbacks, which I'm kind of partial to the Diamondbacks colors right now because that's what our new program colors are, is the Diamondbacks colorway. So that was pretty neat to be able to coach against the young man, and I'm sure he got some guys down there in Mississippi that are talented. So let's get back on the show maybe down the road and see what kind of guys you got inside a 5-star and see if you got any high-level guys that we should be paying attention to here, kind of nationally. So let's get you, I'll text you and we'll get on a show later, but I thank you for taking a little time out of your day to join us here in St. Louis. And this will be on at, I think 3:00 today. It'll go on all the socials and then of course on YouTube. So, and we'll share some of the socials where they can go find you and 5-star down in Mississippi.
All right, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Dusty. Have a good one, buddy.
You too.
Bye-bye.